Welcome to the comprehensive DDD guide. In this 10-part series, I will explain everything you need to know to start off and become an excellent DDD player and unleash the power of capitalism with our corporate demons.
Part 7. Advanced use of DDDs. In the last part, you've learned how to play into time and beat your opponent that may stall or burn you so that he has more life points. This time, on the other hand, you will learn some advanced uses of the DDDs. Some of them have niche effects or nuance effects that you may want to know about when the situation comes. So without further ado, let's learn more about our DDDs. First is our big boy Caesar. Caesar is a contract searcher, as you already know, but he's not a hard once per turn contract searcher, meaning that if you can dump in multiple times in one turn, you can search for multiple contracts as well. This search comes especially in handy when you are up against an opponent where your big Caesar is useless, but your contracts are very useful. This could be the case when you're up against Florana Reese, for example, and if you have a big Caesar, he's basically useless because Flunder doesn't special anything out. So instead of sitting on him as a body, you can convert him into a contract such as Eternal Darkness, where you prevent your opponent from tributing your monsters, which is indeed very useful against that matchup. Speaking of contracts, let's get into Small Genghis. Small Genghis is not only a reborn on legs, but he actually recovers one of our destroyed contracts from the graveyard as well. This may come in handy in grind games where you have burned through almost all your contracts, or you want to recycle one of your contracts that you have already used, such as Swamp King, to go for a game. The only thing that you have to do to recover a contract is to actually get your opponent into destroying your Small Genghis by battle. This may seem hard at first, but it's actually pretty easy, especially in the grind game. And since Yu-Gi-Oh players don't read. Okay, next one, Abyss Ragnarok. Ragnarok's banish effect is soft once per turn, meaning that if you get another copy of Ragnarok out, you can actually use that banish effect again. And by physical copy I don't mean 2 Ragnaroks, I just mean 1, exactly, because you only need 1. You have to special out your Ragnar to the field and then you use this banish effect. Afterwards you want to go into your Gilgamesh so that you can pan summon him out again, and he then counts as your second copy basically, which then renews the activation and you can use that banish effect once more. Oh, and the banish effect works on set monsters as well, just so you know. Here you can see I used that banish effect to bait out another interaction, which gets imperm. But since I did have enough follow-up to go into a Gilgamesh so that I can go and pen summon our Ragnarok out again, this was rather useless, since after pen summoning I can just banish him once more. Basically that imperm was just wasted now, which is awesome, because it could have hit our Gilgamesh. Since you have to pen summon Ragnar out, you have to scale Kepler, keep that in mind. Now after Ragnar got pen summoned, I can banish Baelilings once more, or try to. But I held it off so that I could revive my Caesar so that I can go into my Tell and then proc the 1000 burn damage, and afterwards I would have tributed my Tell to banish the Baelilings to go plus. But sadly he's screwed because he realized what I wanted to do. Okay, next one, our blue boy Gilgamesh. He's the MVP of all the DDDs that we have because he's the scale setter. But there are 2 details that are very important with Gilgamesh. The first one is that he only needs to be special summoned so that you can set the scales, meaning that you don't have to link summon him all the time to set the scales. This sounds very basic and apparent, but really when it's in the heat of the moment and you are in a battle, you are too stressed to sometimes realize that. Because if you're, for example, in the grind game and you don't have any Gilgameshes left, you can actually still set the scales with his effect just by simply reborning him from the grave. That's it. So for everyone who is curious, this is how it would look like. Now I want to revive our Gilgamesh from the graveyard with the effect of Big Genghis. And when Gilgamesh hits the field, I can actually set the scales, just as usual. Now you see, I can just set the scales as regularly, just like I would have link summoned Gilgamesh. Awesome, right? This saves a lot of resources in the grind game. And now to the second small detail of Gilgamesh. Upon card effect or battle destruction, Gilgamesh actually floats in any DDD extra deck monster that you want. So depending on the matchup, it might be more useful to leave Gilgamesh on the field instead of Machinex. Especially because there's a synergy between Gilgamesh and Ragnarok as scale. What do I mean by that? Well, let's suppose that our Gilgamesh gets destroyed somehow by battle destruction or by card effect, I don't care why. He then floats into any DDD from our extra deck, right? Then, if we have Ragnar as scale and we have another DD in the grave, we can actually trigger Ragnar's revive effect by the float effect of Gilgamesh. And that is all happening in your opponent's turn, by the way, which is awesome. So depending on the game state, you can actually float into two bodies and follow up with Gilgamesh when you have the right reborn targets. Okay, let me show you an example gameplay where you can actually see it. And from the looks of it, it's obviously Sky Striker, so keep that in mind. In this current build, I run Bright Armor, which is the sole win con I need against Sky Striker because all their spell cards are rendered useless with him on the field. Now, my small Genghis eats an Imperm, which is unfortunate, but I still have follow-up, right? But unfortunately, he had Ogre in hand as well. This might look bad, but everything is still okay. And since it's Sky Striker, I just gambled with Gilgamesh on the field, since I have Griffin in the graveyard, keep that in mind. I scale Ragnar and just chill from now on. He now goes into Camellia for Foolish. And now he uses his Afterburners to pop my Gilgamesh and my Rage. This was a big misplay since now I can float into my Bright Armor and revive my Griffin so that I can fetch my Kepler, which is guaranteed follow-up and immunity. And then he rage quitted because he realized that it was a big misplay. Now, the only one that is left is our big boy president, Machinex himself. He not only sucks up the opponent's monsters and pen skills, but he has another hidden effect as well, which is not really hidden, but most people don't use it. If you play Master Duel, you might have noticed that on the standby phase, Machinex always asks you, if your pen skill is free of course, whether it should scale itself or not. Well, in most cases it isn't really useful, which is why most people just ignore that effect. But sometimes it's actually game winning. Well, why, you might ask? Let's see it this way. Machinex itself is our other sole level 10 scale that we have in our deck. But not only that, but he has another nice ability that when he's scaled and there's another DD scale on the other side, he can actually special that DD scale and rescale it with a DD from the field or in the graveyard. This might not sound impressive, but it actually is very impressive because then you can actually manipulate the scales to your liking so that it fits the use case that you're currently working in. And not only that, let's see it in another way, okay? With that effect, you actually have a delayed reborn effect and a recycling effect on top of it. So let's suppose you have a Griffin in the graveyard and you don't have any reborns because you don't have access to it with your Genghises, okay? Well, with Machinex's pen scale effect, you now actually have the ability to rescale your scale with Griffin and special on top of it the other DD from the other side to the field. And it could be any DD, mind you, meaning if you have like a big DD, for example a Rage or a Ragnarok on the other side, you can special it out without any cost, while at the same time regaining the access for Griffin on the field. With that, you can special out any DD that you can scale, and you can recycle any DD that is in the graveyard, so that it either goes into the face-up extra deck or stays on the field. Awesome. Okay, here's a snippet of the gameplay I had in Viking Snake Eyes in my WCQ, where I actually used my Machinex effect. For everyone who is interested in all of my duels in the WCQ, you can actually check it out in here. Okay, anyways, now to the game state. In my face-up extra deck I currently have a Kepler, and in my graveyard I have a Rage. So it would be super convenient to special out my Kepler from my face-up extra deck. And to do that I'm gonna use Machinex. On standby I scale Machinex since I don't have any pen scale on the other side. Now I'm gonna special out Ragnar from the other side to rescale it with my Rage. Ragnar will then revive a DDD from my graveyard. And from then onwards it's game, because with 1/1 in hand I basically have too much gas to be stopped by anything. And since I've recycled my Rage, I now can bounce it back to my hand, and with that I can normal summon it so that I can go for game. But before that I wanted to banish his Garunix, and it was too much emotional damage, so he left. Congratulations associate, or should I say manager. Since you have learned some of the secrets of the DDDs, and you can use them to the fullest now, you are now really well versed in this demon company. You actually know quite a lot. But is it everything though? Well, of course not. This company still has some other secrets that it hid from you, but this time it's about their smaller employees, the small fry. But these effects might actually save you a couple of times if you know them. So in the next video you will learn what our doggos and savants can do. Next time in the DDD guide, advanced use of DDs.